Bismillah, read it hadith. Let's start the hadith again. Bismillah. Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. First of all, we'll still discussing the virtues of Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhum. So it goes as following. وعن عمر narrating the authority of Umar ذكر عنده أبو بكر. Once Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu was mentioned or mention was made of him, yani of Abu Bakr, in the presence of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. According to some riwayat, it's mentioned that somebody said to Hazrat Umar that your contribution to Islam, to the development and progress of Islam, is maybe greater than as Abu Bakr. Right? So Fabaka, he started crying. Waqala wadittu, he said, I wish anna amali, right? Kullahu, all of my actions, everything, whatever I done, 10 years of great contribution towards the expansion of Islam to the far borders, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, parts of Africa, everything was conquered. But all of that, it cannot equate to two actions. Forget about all the actions. It cannot equate to two critical actions of Abu Bakr, right? So he say, Anna amali kullahu, my actions, my contributions, my good deeds, all of it, mithlu amalihi yawman wahida, right? I wish it could be like one. So waditu, I wish that my actions, all of it, could be equal to one mithla amalihi, one action of his, or the action of his, sorry, wrong translation, mithla amalihi yawman wahid, the action of his of one day, min ayamihi, from his days, wa laylatihi, right, and wa laylatan wahida min layalihi, and all can be equal to one nice action from all the actions of his night, min right. Amma laylatuhu, as for the action that he done one night, right, سار مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى الغار. He traveled with Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم to the cave, right? فلما you can drink it, you can drink it now. Take it, right? فلما انتهيا إليه, and then when they came to the cave, قال والله, as Abu Bakr said to Nabi Sallam, لا تدخل حتى أدخل قبلك, that you don't enter, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't enter the cave, قبل, right? Until I go in. So I want to go in and see it is safe. I want to make it like a. فإن كان فيه شيء أصابني. Why? Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if there's anything harmful in the cave, you know the desert, in the desert normally you get scorpions, you get snakes, you get all these type of harmful stuff, right? So, right, I want to make sure that the place is clear of any harmful thing. So if there's any harmful thing in there, it must rather affect me. It must rather uh, harm me, right? So I will go in first, right? That's why he said, look at that, subhanallah. Right? لا تدخل حتى أدخل قبلك فإن كان في شيء. So شيء is the ism of kana, eh? So if there is anything in it, أصابني دونك, it must harm me, not you, O Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, subhanallah. فدخل, so as Abu Bakr entered, فكسحه, then he cleansed it out thoroughly, right? First carry on. You got jumpy, I got ووجد في جانبه ثقبا. Right. So as Abu Bakr entered and he found في جانبه, in one corner, ثقبا, right? Holes, right? Some holes are crevices, like in which maybe some harmful animals, maybe like a scorpion, snake, or something like that could be residing in there, right? Carry on. Subhanallah. So the Abu Bakr فَشَقَّ إِزَارَهُ وَسَدَّهَا بِهِ. He took his lower garment and he tore it up, right? إِزَارَهُ وَسَدَّهَا بِهِ. Subhanallah. And he plugged, so to say. He plugged those holes so that if there's something harmful in there, it could not come out to harm Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, as Abu Bakr only had enough, you can say, cloth to cover 80% of the holes. There were still two holes that he couldn't cover, right? So he said, وَبَقِيَ مِنْ حَسْنَانِ, two holes remain for which he did not have anything to cover it up, right? This word al-qama is an interesting word. Al-qama means to, like, it means like, you take some food and you put it in your mouth, you make it a lukma. So you say, we say that also in Urdu, Gujarati, they say a lukma of food. It comes from the same word here. Lukma means to make something into a what? Into a morsel of food. So you say al-qama means with the alif or the hamza means to, so al-qama, so فَأَلْقَمَهُمَا رِجْلَهُمَا, to put in, right? So it means he put his 2 feet into these holes. So what he done, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was resting on the lap of Abu Bakr, and then he raised his 2 feet and he used his 2 feet to plug these two crevices or these two cracks in the wall of the cave, right? That's what it means. So you can say, so al-qaba means to put something into, like how you put the food into your mouth. But in this case here, you can say, فَأَلْقَمَهُمَا, he plugged them too. Yani what he plugged? The two holes, right? رِجْلَيْهِ, with his 2 feet, right? Carry on. Right. So after that was done, ثم قال, he said, ثم قال لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ادخل. Okay, so I just preempted there. So as Nabi Sallallahu wasn't resting on his lap, so he lay down and he put his feet in the hole, and then he said, ثم قال لرسول ادخل يا رسول الله, now you can enter, everything is safe. I made the cave safe for you, right? Right. You got Hijr there, eh? What you got Hijr. Yeah, I got Hajri here, that's wrong, obviously. Both so means lap, ne? Hijr. Okay, you sure it's can you say both? Hajrun is normally rock, isn't it? Hajrun. I don't think, yeah. So, subhanallah. فدخل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, then Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم entered the cave ووضع رأسه في حجره. So he entered the cave and then he put his head onto the lap of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Subhanallah. Carry on. Yeah. So subhanallah. So just as Abu Bakr feared that there might be something harmful in one of these crevices, right? So imagine now, I want you to picture this here now. You got a small cave, right? Just picture it. You got a small cave. And as Abu Bakr is laying there and he got his 2 feet in which he's put his feet over the crevices or the holes in the cave. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is resting on the lap of of Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And then as Hazrat Abu Bakr feared that there might be something harmful, فَلُدِغَ أَبُو بَكْرٍ فِي رِجْلِهِ مِنَ الْجُحْرِ. So people get confused with this. There's 3 words. One is hijr. Hijr means what? Your lap, right? And one is juhr. What juhr means? Hole, right? Juhr, right? So as Abu Bakr feared, فَلُدِغَ أَبُو بَكْرٍ فِي رِجْلِهِ مِنَ الْجُحْرِ. Subhanallah. So as Abu Bakr was stung on his foot because of something that was in there, subhanallah. وَلَمْ يَتَحَرَّكْ مَخَافَةَ أَن يَنْتَبِهَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. How we say, as Abu Bakr didn't even flinch. He didn't even move. Imagine being stung with it was a snake. The hadith is not saying, yeah, I think there's some other hadith that suggests it was a scorpion or something. Imagine being stung by a snake or a scorpion. And yeah, he didn't even move. He didn't flinch. Why? وَلَمْ يَتَحَرَّكْ. He did not even move. مَخَافَةَ, out of fear. أَيَّنْ تَبِهَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Rasulullah was be alerted. Subhanallah. But the pain was so intense. Imagine poison. He's been poisoned by a snake, right? فَسَقَطَتْ دُمُوعُهُ عَلَى وَجْهِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because of the intensity of the pain, the tears began dropping. Abu Bakr's tears began dropping upon the cheeks of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Carry on. So obviously Rasulullah picked this up. فَقَالَ مَا لَكَ يَا أَبَا بَكْرٍ. Ya Abu Bakr, your tears are falling on me. What happened? What's happening? He said, Ludightu ya Rasulullah. I have been stung with something. Either it is a scorpion or a snake or something. Right. Fidaka abi wa ummi. May my father and my mother be sacrificed for you. فَتَفَلَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. يعني Nabi Sallallahu anointed the wound with some of his saliva. Subhanallah. Yeah. So ma yajiduhu here is the what is the fire, right? So يعني the full ibarat would be ma yajiduhu min al-alam, right? فذهب ما يجده من الألم. So the moment Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam put some of his saliva, then the pain that as Abu Bakr was experiencing went away, right? ثم انتقض عليه. Then at a later stage in his life, I'm going to discuss a bit more of this here just now, inshallah. ثم انتقض عليه. The poison became apparent. So in other words, for that moment, the poison in its effect was not there, right? وَكَانَ السَّبَبَ. You got sababu or sabab? What you got in your kitab there? Sababa? You? Sababa. Right. So then you say, then it's pretty simple. So the ism is in kana. Then it was the cause of his death. Yani the death of Abu Bakr. Amma yawmuhu. So this was the night. Right. So remember, go back to the original part of the hadith. What as Umar said when it was mentioned was Umar. I think your contribution from other hadith, although it's not mentioned in hadith, to the progress of Islam is greater than the progress of Hazrat Abu Bakr. So he said, forget about all my contribution, to forget about all Hazrat Abu Bakr's contribution. I'm telling you, there's only two contributions in the life of Hazrat Abu Bakr. Two contributions. One is it was at night, and one is at the day, in the daytime. That contribution of his, it is better. And some riwayat, once I gave a whole Jum'ah bayan on this topic here. That's why I know all the details of this. In some riwayat, it comes also, he said that look here, that forget about my contribution. Some riwayat come that these two contributions of Hazrat Abu Bakr, it is better than Umar and all Umar's children and all their children's good deeds. Not only Umar, not only my good deeds. It is better than all my children, all my generations who come to Qiyamah Day. That these two actions of Abu Bakr even better than all of that to put together, right? So this was the first one that night when uh, as Abu Bakr cleansed the cave and he took the thing for Rasulullah sallallahu, right? Then the second was Amma Yawmuhu, the day in which as Abu Bakr made a very, very decisive contribution towards Islam. What was it? فلما قبض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the day Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم was taken away from this dunya, right? Right, carry on. Right, ارتدت العرب, right? Many of the Arabs became murtad. We're going to do this a bit in a bit more detail when we do the explanation of the hadith. So certain people, they only accepted Islam from the outlying areas because they thought now the whole Arabian Peninsula has become Muslim. If we don't accept, we're going to be the odd one out, etc. So now, a lot of them thought that the whole of Islam is perverted. It hinges upon Hazrat Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the day Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is not there, the deen will come to an end. Then the deen will come to an end. That's why it was after the death of Rasulullah, there was a lot of opportunists. We'll do a bit more about this. I'll discuss more about this just now. But you must read. I told you, I mentioned to you before, Salabi, his books, he's a Lebanese scholar, all right? He's got original works are in what? Is in Arabic, but now it has been translated into English, and I think they sell it also by Madrasa Zakaria. If you want an accurate, normally the ulama, these books are very, very highly rated. These books are very, very highly rated amongst the ulama. The ulama speak about it. So if you want an accurate account of what happened in the life of Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar, Uthman, Hazrat Ali. So he's got a seerah book, just listen nicely, on Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what I know about. He's got about the four Khulafa. He's got about Umar bin Abdul Aziz, also a good book, inshallah, I want to buy that, but I got the others. And he's also got a book on the Dawlat Uthmaniyah, that is the Ottoman Empire, a good book. Is also translated into English. And I just saw on the ulama chat now also, he's got his latest work is upon the Ibadiyah. The Ibadiyah, I discussed with you a little bit before that the Ibadiyah, that sect that lives in Oman. So they're not like Sunni, they're not Shia, they're something totally different. Generally, the whole Muslim world is divided into either Sunni or Shia. 80% of the world is Sunni, and then obviously Sunnis have further divisions, and then about 20% is Shia. So, but this is this Ibadi is totally different. There is something totally different. Alhamdulillah, I told you we had the good fortune of going to Oman also. We visited a very beautiful country, clean country. It's got the highest literacy rate in the world. So one state country. So then we never used to read Salah behind the people there, because from that time what I checked, I saw that no, they're not Muslim. But now they were discussing on the MUFTI the other day. They said that a lot of those erroneous beliefs that the Ibadiyya had before, that is in the historical books, they've abandoned most of those. They've abandoned most of those wrong beliefs, and they've come more onto like mainstream Islam. But anyway, that I was telling you. So this is the latest book of Salabia of the Ibadiyya. I saw it on one of the chats. But anyway, so I was telling you, we'll do a bit more about this here. You must read about the life of Hazrat Abu Bakr. Irtaddatil Arabu. So many of the Arabs, they became murtad. Now we do a little bit more of this when we do the right. Right. So, وقالوا لا نؤدي زكاة. Some of them said we won't give zakat. فقال, as Abu Bakr said, لو منعوني إقالا, that if they have to prevent me, iqalan normally refer to the rope on the neck of a small camel, like the halter. So he said, if these people refuse to discharge, some explanation of iqalam means even a small camel in zakat, la jahadtum alayhi. And if you people don't want to stand with me, I will fight with them alone, right? وقلت, and as Umar said, Ya Khalifata Rasulillah, أو Khalifa of Rasulullah. I told you, remember we discussed this yesterday. We said that as Abu Bakr was known as Khalifa to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first person that was known as Amirul Mu'mineen was as Umar, and it was when two people came and they referred to him as Amirul Mu'mineen. It was one Sahabi said, "Hey, this is a nice name," and he began calling as Umar by that name, right? Right? Ta'allaf in nas. Be like ta'allaf. Allah means like be compassionate with the people. Warfuq bihim. Show mercy with them. فقال لي, so Abu Bakr, أجبار في الجاهلية. Oh Umar, you are generally a very brave person in Jahiliyyah. You know, the Muslims used to fear you. So أجبار في الجاهلية, were you a brave warrior in Jahiliyyah? وخوار في الإسلام, and now at the time of establishing, asserting the authority of Islam, are you now like a coward? إنه قد انقطع الوحي. Then as Abu Bakr said, look here, Wahi has come to an end, right? Wahi, watamma dinu, and the deen is complete. As we've got Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has left us with a complete deen, right? There's nothing short. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, right? قد انقطع الوحي وتم الدين, and deen has been complete. أينقص الدين وأنا حي? Will any deficiency come into the deen وأنا حي whilst I'm alive? Never. In other words, as long as I'm alive, the deen will remain strong. I will ensure. Some riwayats have come that he said As Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala said, that even that I be flung from the heaven to the earth, I be flung to my death, is better for me than I see any deficiency come to deen. And another riwayat it comes also, he says that when he wanted to send the army of Usama, remember he said, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they said, Anfidu Jaisha Usamata, send out the army of Usama. That if so it was suggested to him, look here, that now that Nabi Sallam passed away, we might be vulnerable. People might want to take advantage. They might want to attack Medina. So keep the army here, etc. So he said that even if the wild dogs have to drag the bodies of the Azwaji and Mutaharat through the streets of Medina, we're still sending the army of Usama out. We're not going to show any type of weakness. So the strength that Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala showed at that point in time is what saved the day. So I told you, normally, when people perceive you are weak, then they want to take you and take advantage of you. When you're down on the ground, then they want to kick you in the teeth, right? Because they think you are weak. So yes, the Sahaba Ikram were weak at that time. There's no doubt about it. The only person that was strong at that point in time was Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Remember, we discussed in detail the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahaba Ikram were totally disorientated. You can say they were concussed, right? They didn't know what to do, right? They didn't know what to do, and all rightly so, because their whole life pivoted around Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah was the be all and the end all of everything. So they were totally, as Umar radiallahu anhu, a great Sahabi. We're going to do inshallah today. We're going to start today. He's manaqib also, right? He was big size, strong person, great contribution, but even he was totally disorientated. Remember, he took out his sword at that point in time, and he said that anybody who says that Muhammad Sallallahu passed away, I'm going to kill him. Nabi Sallallahu didn't pass away, but rather he went to visit his Lord, like our Musa alayhi salam, went to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they were totally concussed. But Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was obviously ahead of them in spirituality. So instead of these, as human beings, we are controlled by two things. One is we're controlled by our intellect and our emotion. So here, as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu did not allow his emotion to take control of him. He was driven by his aql, by his intellect, and he took control. He took control of the situation. Remember, it comes in some riwayah that at that particular moment or that evening when Nabi Sassam passed away, he was by one of his wives that was just outside Medina. So he was one of the, not the last, okay, but the latter people to come. When he came, he kissed Rasulullah Sallallahu on his forehead and said, Tibta hayyan wa mayitan. We done this riwayat. Remember, the Sahaba Ikram didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to wash him, where to bury him, where to how to read the janazah namaz, etc., etc. So as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, because he was spiritually ahead of everybody else, it shows his status. He took control of the situation, and then he brought stability to the Muslim world. I told you, okay, we're going to discuss a bit more about this here now, that Sahaba Kram were totally concussed. They didn't know what to do, etc. And then he took charge. He sent out the army of Usama. And then I told you, at that point in time, there were many opportunists. Musailamatul Kazab, Aswad Anasi. They thought now that the Muslims are weak, they can take advantage, etc. But he's the one who showed strength. So to show strength at the time of weakness. Anyway, let's just look at a few things in the hadith. So here the hadith speaks about, we did discuss this also, that when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got permission from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that now he can make hijrat, he can leave Makkah al-Mukarramah, and he can go to Madinah al-Munawwara. So the first night they took refuge in a cave, and the reason was that if they could travel the first day, obviously people would have been the Meccans, the Mushrikeen would have been hot on their heels. So they lied low in the Ghar Thawr, right? So here it's mentioned that the Ghar Thawr, it is a little bit distance out of Makkah al-Mukarramah, and it is a very, very it's situated or located on a very, very high peak. I think the last time I saw they're actually going to be having cable cars. Now, to go up there on your own to climb, it's quite difficult. But they're going to be building, constructing some cable cars. It will take you up so you can see it, inshallah. So here the author stated, I saw this Ghar Thawr. So he says here, this, if you go up, you see there's actually two, so to say, little caves there. There's one cave which its mouth is showing into the direction of Makkah. And normally this is understood to be the Ghar Thawr. But there's another, like so to say, cave there. And outside the mouth of this cave, there is two big rocks. And this cave here, this other one, you have to like go down. When you enter it, you have to go downwards, right? And he says that it's very small. It's difficult to believe that two people could sit in there. And outside this cave, this other one here, which saying that doesn't face towards Makkah, there's a big rock. And this rock is actually like in the shape of a buffalo. And maybe this is the reason why it's called Ghar Thawr. Because remember, buffalo means like an ox, buffalo in Arabic. So here the author says, according to my understanding, I think the second one is the one in which Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took refuge, not the first one. So just a few random words. فَكَسَحَهُ means to cleanse it out, to remove any harmful things from the cave. Saqaban, I told you that is the holes or the crevices in the walls of the cave. Alqamahuma, it means to put something into another thing, like how you put the morsels of food into your mouth. And in this context means alqama means he put his feet into the crevices of the cave. Then the word Rasulullah, after he got stung, he said, Malaka. Malaka means like, what is happening with you? Like how we say, what's up, what's happening? Malaka, right? Why is the tears coming out? Tafula normally means to spit, right? To take out some spit. But in this case here, what it means is he anointed, he put some of his saliva into the wound of the place where as Abu Bakr was stung. So the interesting thing here, it's mentioned here that for that moment, right, after Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam anointed the the sting wound or whatever with some of his saliva, the effect went away. But ثُمَّ انْتَفَضَ, it came back at a later stage. So if you're smart, you remember also that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was poisoned by the Jewess. Remember, she was poisoned by the Jewess, and then the effect of that poison went away. But it is mentioned if you study the wafat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that before he passed away, the effect of that poison came back. And that is the wisdom, the hikmah of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala maybe wanted it such that Rasulullah was also have the honor of passing away as a shaheed. So here we see the exact same thing happening to Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. I mentioned to you before, when the student has so much love for the ustad, he has so much faith in the ustad, and in Arabic it's also called i'tiqad. What's it called? I'tiqad. That you see then afterwards the student or the murid, the murid, the person who has taken somebody as his spiritual guide, etc., etc. When he has so much faith, so much love, he starts dressing like him, he starts looking like him, he starts speaking like him. And in Tasawwuf, this is called Nisbata Ittihadi. What's it called? Nisbata Ittihadi. Say the word Nisbata Ittihadi. This Nisbata Ittihadi means when the murid, when the student, etc., begins to resemble because of his excessive love, his excessive faith, his excessive confidence in his teacher, he began resembling him in the way he speaks, in his teachings, etc. So we can see obviously as Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu had excessive faith and i'tiqad in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Hence, he resembled him to the fact that he lived the same age that he lived, and he also passed away in the same way as Nabi Sallallahu passed away, that he was also, he died as a result of some poisoning. Subhanallah, see that, right? So he also got the honor of being a shaheed. Jazakallah for that, right? So I was telling you this iqalan, just to expand upon, it refers to some riwayat say anaqan, which refer to a small camel. So after, when Nabi Sallallahu passed away, about 70% of the Arabian Peninsula, which we say the Jazira al-Arab, today where you see Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Qatar, all those countries, that area, that Jazira al-Arab, they had already accepted Islam, right? So I told you, some people maybe, they only accepted Islam. Why? Because they felt that everybody's accepting Islam, and if we don't accept Islam, we're going to be the odd ones out. We're going to be the odd ones out. So they accepted Islam just to be part of the trend, so to say, just to be part of the trend. Right? So Iman didn't really enter their hearts. So they wanted to, so they were different, you can say opportunists, people of opportunists at that point in time. So you had some of them that wanted to leave Islam completely. They thought now that with the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Islam will come to an end. Then you had those people that they thought now that there's no prophet, they can claim prophethood. I told you, Musailamatul Kadhab, Aswad Ansi, Tulaisa, and there was another lady also. She also claimed prophethood. She was like a prophetess. Then you had those people who outrightly refuse to pay zakat. They're not going to pay zakat at all. And then you had those people, they said, no, they'll pay zakat, but they won't pay to Hazrat Abu Bakr, they won't pay to the Khalifa. So it was actually these people that were still Muslim, but they said, we won't pay the zakat to Hazrat Abu Bakr, the Khalifa, we'll pay it ourselves. So it was with regards to these people that as Umar said, okay, don't be so hard upon them. After all, they are Muslim. After all, they are Muslim. They do recite the kalima. They're going to pay the zakat. But as Abu Bakr at that point in time, he thought it prudent that we need to assert our authority if we're going to give in to them. So firstly, those people say, no, they're going to pay the zakat themselves. If we're going to give in to them, what's going to happen? Then the next one is going to take advantage, and the next one is going to take advantage. That's why he showed the strength at that point in time. And I told you those statements he made, that I be flung from the sky till the earth is better for me to see some type of deficiency come into the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he strove so hard to establish in this dunya. And then he said that look, like salat is also an important obligation. Zakat is also a important obligation. And those people who separate between salat and zakat, in other words, they want to accept certain part of deen and certain part of deen they don't want to accept it, we will fight them. So other than that, as Abu Bakr was a very calm person, but when the time was there for him to show strength, to establish the deen, and to see that no weakness comes into deen, then he was ready because he witnessed firsthand the sacrifices Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made for the establishment of deen. That's why he said to Umar, "Ajabbarun fil jahiliyyah wa khawwanun fil Islam." Oh, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that you're showing weakness now. You are showing weakness. Were you a brave person, very brave person? In Jahiliyyah, people used to fear you. But now when it comes to establishing the deen of Allah Ta'ala, to ensure that no weakness comes into the deen of Allah Ta'ala, that no opportunist take any type of advantage, are you going to show weakness? The deen is complete. It is now there for us to preserve the deen. If people want to, so to say, neglect or break any aspect of deen, are we going to allow them to do that? So from that, you learn what the ulama, who are the inheritors, the heirs, the successors of the Anbiya, what are their duties, that under all circumstances they should be ready to establish the deen, not compromise, polite, firm, under all circumstances, ensure that you establish the deen of Allah Ta'ala on this earth, to establish the deen of Allah Ta'ala in this dunya, to not allow any type of weaknesses to come into deen. Think about how Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, on the one hand, he had to deal with the grief and the loss of his lifelong companion. Remember I told you, as Abu Bakr didn't only start his friendship with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after he claimed prophethood, they were childhood friends. They were childhood friends. From childhood, they were friends. So on the one hand, he had to deal with the loss of his childhood friend, his companion, his son-in-law, right? The person for whom he was prepared to sacrifice everything. So he had to deal with that grief. And despite that, having to deal with that grief, he showed the fortitude and the resilience to stabilize what? The fluid situation. Because as I told you, there were many people ready to take advantage at that point in time. People who wanted to claim prophethood, etc., etc. So this is called the Irtidad Wars. I told you, if you want to have a good read of this, you have to get the biography of Abu Bakr by Salabi. So he's mentioned here, it took a whole year. It took a whole year for Abu Bakr then to stabilize the situation on the Jazirat al-Arab and to bring things back to normal like it was just before the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Hazrat Ibn Mas'ud, the great Sahabi, jurist faqih, I told you the Hanafis take most of their masail from him. He said initially we couldn't understand the hard stance that Hazrat Abu Bakr was taking. It is being so firm. He's being so firm and he's being so resolute in establishing the deen. But eventually we saw the wisdom. That's why I think it was Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Lawla Aba Bakrin lama ubidallahu al-yawm. If it was not for Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu and the resilience and the fortitude he showed at that time, lama ubidallahu al-yawm al-ard. Then Allah Ta'ala would not have been worshipped on the dunya today. people would have taken advantage, right? So as Abu Bakr also, as Abu Hurairah, قام في الردة مقام الأنبياء. قام في الردة, he took the position with regard to the Murtaddeen. He took the position of a Nabi, of establishing the deen on this earth, right? That's why Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala, she said that after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, such a big responsibility rested upon the shoulders of my father, Abu Bakr. It was to stabilize the situation and bring to book the opportunists. That's such a great responsibility. That is such a responsibility had to come onto a mountain. Then it would cause a mountain to perish. It cause a mountain to pulverize. But as the Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he bore this responsibility with a great deal of resilience, a great deal of fortitude. فَجَزَاهُ اللَّهُ أَنَّ أَحْسَنَ الْجَزَاءِ. Allah Ta'ala reward him on behalf of all of us. مَنْ كَانَ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ خَالِقُهُ لَا يَرْمِيَنَّ أَبَا بَكْرٍ بِبُهْتَانٍ. So whoever knows that Allah Ta'ala is his creator, then he will never accuse as Abu Bakr with any false things like how the Shias claim. Right? فلولا أن السماء دنت لمجت ومكرمة دنت لهم السماء. So I told you from amongst the accolades and amongst the virtues of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala was his great service he rendered in stabilizing the situation after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. Okay, so that brings us to the end of that chapter, the Manaqib of Abu Bakr. As I said, we make dua that Allah reward us Abu Bakr on behalf of the entire Ummah, because today we are enjoying the fruits of his effort. We are enjoying the fruits of his effort, the sacrifice he made. If it wasn't for him, we don't know what would have happened. Allah Ta'ala used him. Allah Ta'ala accept. Allah Ta'ala show it on our mizan. Allah Ta'ala make it a means of shifa for all the ill, inshallah. So now we're switching over to the tafsir, inshallah. Open there. Where we stop.